Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has lifted some of the sanctions imposed on Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali after the military took over governance in the countries. The regional bloc announced this during its extraordinary session in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Our ICE correspondent, Panariman Benjamin, tells us more.
It is the extraordinary session of the Authority of Heads of State and Government. The focus is on the political, peace and security situation in the ECOWAS sub-region. Present are members from the diplomatic community and key stakeholders from the ECOWAS region. The event was declared open by the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government, President Bola Tinubu, highlighting the significance of the session.
It is through our concerned effort and concerted efforts and a deep sense of history that we can address these challenges in the spirit of a shared vision, solidarity, and collective responsibilities. Burdened by the weight of the challenges confronting us, I am equally buoyed by the spirit of a collective resolve that defines our ECOWAS community. This extraordinary summit was convened at a critical juncture that demands our focused attention on regional issues.
After a closed-door meeting, the ECOWAS President Aliou Touré announces the decision to lift economic sanctions.
On sanctions, the authority has resolved as follows. The authority has resolved to lift with immediate effect the following measures imposed on the Republic of Niger. A, closure of land and air borders between ECOWAS countries and Niger to be lifted. No-fly zone of all commercial flights to and from Niger is to be lifted. Suspension of all commercial and financial transactions between ECOWAS member states and Niger is to be lifted. Freezing of all service transactions, including utility services, is to be lifted. Freezing of assets of the Republic of Niger in ECOWAS central banks is to be lifted. Freezing of assets of Niger state and the state enterprises and parastatals in commercial banks is to be lifted. Suspension of Niger from all financial assistance and transactions with all financial institutions, particularly EBRD and BRID, is to be lifted. Travel ban on the government officials and their family members is also to be lifted. This decision is based on humanitarian considerations, especially as we are in the month of Lent and as we prepare for the holy month of Ramadan. The authority has also resolved to lift the sanctions regarding the recruitment of Malian citizens in statutory and professional positions within ECOWAS.
He cites humanitarian reasons for lifting the ban. However, only economic and financial bans were lifted while the political sanctions remain in place.
The authority recognizes that the 3 member states represent 17.4% of the region's 425 million population. Even though they represent 10% of the region's GDP, their departure will constitute a reduction of the market size of ECOWAS. The authority recognizes that intra-community trade may also be disrupted, especially trade in unprocessed goods such as livestock, fish, plant, agriculture produce, mineral products. It will also affect traditional handicraft products as well as industrial products of community origin.
Experts say the removal of some of these sanctions is indeed a welcome development for the regional bloc, but whether these three countries will return to the bloc is what everyone will be hoping to see. Punaraman Benjamin, Arise News.
Well, let's join the international affairs analyst Paul Ejime on this issue and how ECOWAS can forge ahead with one voice. Good to see you, Paul, and thanks for your time. Well, it looks like a big decision, a tough one to make by the leaders. Did you see this coming?
Thank you, Suleiman. Good evening, viewers. Yes, actually, I wrote about it yesterday while also taking on board what is happening in Senegal, which unfortunately does not feature on the agenda. We'll come back to that. But I will tell you that ECOWAS haven't seen that there were missteps in the handling of particularly the Niger issue. One was the heads of state jumping in with sanctions without any discussion, and then, even talking about using military force to, these were unprecedented. And then you will say, in a region where you have political coups, constitutional coups, ballot box coups, why is it that it's only when the military now strikes that everybody, all hell is let loose? This is not to justify military rule, but I think ECOWAS saw that they have made a mistake in that is the use of force against to restore constitutional order in Niger was unpopular. And all the sanctions, if you had, for instance, if you put a blanket sanction on somebody, on the coup leaders, and they cannot even move, you are preventing them and you want to engage. I mean, it sends a very wrong signal. I think ECOWAS is just walking back, but I hope it's at a cost, because its integrity is now under question, and the leaders, and particularly Nigeria, because all this is happening because of, let's face it, ECOWAS and Nigeria, they are almost, it's a bound, you call them, they are interrelated. You can almost interchange because ECOWAS set up this organization to be able to harness good neighborliness, and then what you call the concentric circle of international relations, beginning from home and then going to your neighbor, then talking about the region, the continent, before you go to the wider world. That was the reason, the idea behind the setting up of ECOWAS. And if you recall, one of the surviving founding fathers of ECOWAS, General Yakubu Gowon, had also come out to make this appeal. But I can tell you it was in the works before he came in to make the appeal. And I think it is all well that ECOWAS can find an escape route. It is they're out of jail because they were wondering how they were going to handle this with three members wanting to leave. But what they have also done, which is good, is that they have now thrown the ball back to the court of the juntas. You are saying, well, the ECOWAS was insensitive. They have imposed sanctions. They've now said, okay, almost free ride. We have opened the place. But can you please go back and return your country to constitutional order? Because there is no room. Military rule is an aberration here. So because they have not shown in experience, even in as we speak, 2 coups have happened in Mali from 2020. As Simigota had the coup, and then another coup against the government where he was serving as vice president. In Burkina Faso, a colonel was removed by the Captain Touare, who is there. So it shows that military rule is not the answer. But the politicians are the cause. They have to begin to govern, to show, bring what this so-called, this cliche that is overused, dividend of democracy. The people are not seeing it. It is only showing among those who are governing. the leaders and their families and everybody. But the others, you can see the economic hardship that is everywhere. You can't even, it's not just, even in the big brother Nigeria, there is a hardship. People cannot even, the value of your money is getting to useless. You can't buy anything. You come today, they tell you something is 20 naira, but you come, you return 1 hour or two later, they say it's 1,000. So these are out of, I will call it the factors that follow bad governance.
Okay,
they have not handled it well. So they should do that.
Let me jump in here, because some of the key concerns now will be about, the future, where to take this into. You've just highlighted that now the ball is on the court of the leaders of the junta. What do you think is expected of these leaders, knowing full well that first the government, which they have put in place, is an aberration in a democratic setting. So how does the conversation flow from this moment on?
So I think ECOWAS had put the cart before the horse. But I think the situation can still... If you recall that these are not the first coups in the ECOWAS region. Even in Niger and these other places, ECOWAS had handled coups and wayward member states. There were instruments, and there are still instruments to be used to, get everybody on the line. And how is it done? If it says when you are coming to equity, you have to come with clean hands. The leaders who are there now must show themselves that the sincerity, that they mean business, and not just come there to legitimize illegitimacy. Governments that are, elections that are not well run, let them come out and condemn it. Leaders that are not, have become autocratic or dictatorial, they should tell themselves the truth. These are the only ways that there won't be military coups. The people are suffering. So what is there is that let ECOWAS go back to all the protocols. There are so many protocols. One of them is the protocol on democracy, supplementary protocol on democracy and good governance, which has, provision of it has tolerance. It doesn't tolerate any change of unconstitutional change of government. That it is not only by coup. When you tinker with the constitution of your country, you are carrying out a coup. When you you conduct a referendum or you change the electoral laws, these are coups. What is happening in Senegal is a coup. But ECOWAS, can you imagine? I haven't seen them talk about it. These are some of the issues. These juntas are holding on to that and say, listen, there has to be a rule of the thumb. You cannot have one set of rules for politicians and another one for the military. But now that they let ECOWAS now go back and rediscover itself, because ECOWAS is unraveling. Those fault lines that the founding fathers tried to patch up, they're all coming out. ECOWAS is, there is no coherence, there is no unity. You find some of these politicians also going behind to go and, make peace or talk to some of these juntas. So these are the issues. Let ECOWAS speak with one voice. They have to do that and let the people, because what the junta has done is to pass the buck. They have made ECOWAS the scapegoat. ECOWAS is not the problem. They didn't cause the problem in their countries.
Paul Ejime, clearly, I think you've hit it on the head. The conversation should have also been extended to Senegal, but that hasn't happened. But before I let you go quickly, if we can do this in a minute, do you think that the leadership of ECOWAS was stampeded by the West into making that decision?
It's the jury is still out on that. They will resist it. They will say they didn't. They are not being teleguided. But that is what the junta had accused ECOWAS of. But you will also say you cannot replace one foreign government with another. The junta, they are running to Russia and China. China and Russia, they are not African countries. So if you are accusing ECOWAS of being teleguided by foreign powers, what do you stand? Do you have the moral authority to say so? But I know where you're coming from. ECOWAS must be seen. It is left with ECOWAS to see, to be seen, to be thinking independently, both at the institutional level, at the national level, and then at the regional level. You know, you can't become slaves. I know most of these countries were former colonial masters. But for how long can we continue to blame colonial masters for our problem after 60 years of independence? So it's up to the leaders that we have today that should, assert the independence of their countries, the independence of the region, the independence of Africa. It is not these other countries are doing that because of their national interest. That's what it's. I know we may have countries like France in mind that has former colonies where the citizens are now have anti-French sentiments. But they forget it. These military juntas, they have also benefited because they were in charge when the military were there. Some of them were heads of presidential guards. So it is not a case of they are not entirely free from the blame. So the people are the ones suffering. Let them liberate, let ECOWAS people liberate their people.
It's a fine place for us to leave it. Paul Ejime, African Affairs Analyst. I'd like to thank you for your time. As always, many thanks, Paul Ejime.